This season of Mardi Gras is so many different things to different people. In Unitarian Universalist minister Marta Valentine's experience, it is about being seen and chosen. In August of 2005, when Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans, Reverend Valentine had arrived in the city just 2 weeks earlier to serve First Unitarian Universalist Church of New Orleans. It was her first settled ministry. She led this community through one of its most difficult times in its history. So when Mardi Gras came around in 2006, the people of New Orleans needed the parades and the dancing, the beads and trinkets. They needed joy and celebration. They needed to be seen. In our reading for today, Reverend Valentine writes about this first Mardi Gras and the lucky position that she found herself in, being seen and chosen by Zulu, one of the oldest all-black crews, to receive not just beads, but the coveted painted coconut. She describes that intimate moment of eyes meeting and gifts being tossed, that magic moment when eyes lock and the masked person looks at you and chooses to throw you a gift. And then Reverend Valentine says this: we all want to be seen and spend lifetimes attempting to achieve it. So whether you've been to a Mardi Gras parade or not, I would imagine that this is a truth we can all relate to. It's a human need to be seen, to be known. The experience of being seen and chosen is the experience of love. It's the love James Baldwin talks about when he wrote, "Love takes off the masks we fear we cannot live without and know we cannot live within." It's the love that we experience when someone sees us for who we really are, holds up a mirror to us, and encourages us to live into that more fully. It's the love that Harlequin's friends showed him in the story. They saw his desire to participate in the festivities and his shame at not having an appropriate costume, and they chose to rally his community to make it happen. It's the love that we sang about just moments ago, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When we see our common humanity in each other's eyes, when we are seen and chosen, this is a holy moment, a holy connection that we call love. Now, on the surface, Mardi Gras could seem pretty irreverent, not something that you would label as holy. Why would we celebrate this in a church service? But we celebrate it in church because its roots are deeply reverent, and because of its relationship to the season that follows, the season of Lent. In her book, Dancing in the Streets, Barbara Ehrenreich looks at the history of dancing in the church. Sacred dancing had for centuries been part of Christian worship, but in the Middle Ages, dancing was pushed out of its original home through papal edicts and other official actions banning dancing from church sanctuaries. So people took their dances, a way of feeling spiritually connected to their religion, out into the streets, and celebrations like Carnival or Mardi Gras began. Mardi Gras, French for Fat Tuesday, also called Shrove Tuesday or Pancake Tuesday, is the day before Ash Wednesday. It's a holy day of feasting and dancing, partying and foolery. And as you saw during the story, the costumes are elaborate. And then sometimes people even dress up as refrigerators, like Reverend Valentine did. After pushing dancing out of the church, it was, of all people, the Pope who in 1582 made Mardi Gras an official Christian holiday. The idea was get all the partying and foolishness over with before the serious season of Lent begins. It's the joy and debauchery before acknowledging and confessing sins. It's losing yourself in the collective revelry or communal revelry before a season of looking inward at your soul self and committing to certain practices of the Spirit. Celebrating Mardi Gras is choosing to delight in the here and now. It's choosing joy no matter what is going on around you. Reverend Valentine chose joy that year after Hurricane Katrina because it had been a very rough few months in her new city. While very different, the COVID pandemic also put a damper on Mardi Gras celebrations, including cutting back many of the parade routes. But this year, the longer parade routes are returning to New Orleans, and I have no doubt the city is rejoicing accordingly. If New Orleans can choose joy again and again, so can we. The poet Mark Nepo wisely wrote, "Often what keeps us from joy is the menacing assumption that life is happening other than where we are." It's so easy in our lives to become attached to the hope of something that is not here and not now, hopes that are often unattainable. We all learned this lesson during COVID, and where so many of our hopes and plans were pushed aside. But sometimes we cling to hopes that are not meant to be, or hopes that mask the reality of what is actually good here and now. The desire for a different or a bigger house makes us forget that we have the home that we have now as a safe and comfortable home. A desire for more free time in our lives makes us forget the reality of meaningful work or loving family. A desire to have the perfect vacation or birthday party or family gathering makes us forget sometimes that what counts is not perfection, but the presence of people who matter in our lives and the experience of being together. As we celebrate Mardi Gras today and move into the season of Lent this week, we are invited to see who we really are, to look at ourselves honestly, and to evaluate what is essential and what's not. We're invited to truly see what shapes our daily lives, what practices, commitments, and relationships claim us. And we're invited to love what we see, no matter what we cling to or where we fall short, to choose generosity and joy over shame and fear. For as we'll be reminded this Wednesday, this is the one life that we have, and it is precious and it is fleeting. The fleeting moments of joy that we experience in Mardi Gras, being chosen to receive a string of beads or a coconut, foreshadows this truth that we sit with more fully in Lent. Last week, as I was talking to Daniel, our senior minister, about this Sunday, he referred to this moment that we are in as a reflective seesaw. I laughed because it is so true. From the high of Mardi Gras, we descend into the time of Lent. And you could view it as, you've ever seen kids on a seesaw where they're going really enthusiastically and one of them goes thud down to the ground. So we could see Lent as a thud down to the ground. Or you could view it as a time when we sink into the ground of our being and examine where and how we are rooted and nurtured. The reflective seesaw. Lent is not void of joy, though. We can find joy in seeing more clearly. We can find joy in deepening connection. We can find joy in the recognition and affirmation that there is an underlying goodness to life. As a church, we describe ourselves as genuinely inclusive, rationally spiritual, and joyfully deep. And while joyfully deep may seem like some folks to be an oxymoron, the terms are only contradictory if you understand joy as something that's just on the surface. But as we know, if we really think about our experience of joy, it dwells deep within us. It's at the heart of who and how we are as human beings, whether we are lonely or in community, troubled or at ease, suffering or healthy. A month or two ago, one of you came up to me after worship to say hello and to see how I'm doing. And after the initial chit-chat that's so common in those situations, she asked me, "What's bringing you joy in your life right now?" And honestly, the question caught me off guard, but it shouldn't have. And so on this Mardi Gras Sunday, I want to know, what's bringing you joy in your life right now? So many people came up to me after the first service. They took this assignment seriously, and they told me what is bringing them joy in their life right now, and it was wonderful. What helps you to access the joy that lives within you? I think if you really look for it, you will find it. And for some of us, it is buried deeper than for others, under layers of stress or sadness or struggle. But this is a great conversation starter for coffee hour, or if you're not here in person for coffee hour, for whatever the next conversation is that you have after church today. It's so much more fruitful than, how are you? Good, thanks. How are you? I'm fine. Good, fine. Okay, you know how that goes. But it's when we have conversations like this where we ask, what brings you joy? What brings you joy in your life right now? That we can really see each other and be seen. What we see is not just another's joy, but also in the course of the conversation, we often find out what they have to navigate through to find and choose that joy. This is a practice that we can sustain not just during Mardi Gras season, but throughout the year. The moments of excitement, receiving beads and coconuts are important, and they are moments when someone sees and chooses us. But they touch something much deeper that is not fleeting. It resides deep in our spirit. It is joy. As a community, we can help each other choose joy by seeing one another, by asking those real questions, by helping each other connect with that wellspring of joy that is always there if we choose to see it. May it be so for all of us. Amen.